Good evening. Welcome to VATV, and today is May 21st, 2015. We have the pleasure and honor to invite two distinguished guests. But before we introduce who the distinguished guests are, we would like to remind you that VATV is sponsored by VATV, which is Vietnamese American Initiative for Development. And you can view this show through Comcast Channel 9 and RCN Channel 15. Or www.bnntv.org. This show will be repeated on Wednesday. Wednesday at 7 is live, and you can call in. And the number is 617-708-3290. And this show will be repeated on Sunday at 5 p.m., Monday at 1 p.m., and Tuesday at 11 a.m. If you have any question for our guests, you can call in once again at 617-708-3290. And with us this evening is Mr. Mark Nestor, who's also a lawyer, and his friend, Mr. Adam Curcuru. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, thank you. We're very honored that you both take the time to come out to our show. And first and foremost, we'd like to say how much we appreciate the Vietnam veteran that have sacrificed their life to protect, the Vietnamese in Vietnam. And I'm quite sure that many of our, fellow countrymen and women wanted me to say that to both of you and to other veterans. So once again, thank you for coming to the show tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting us. I mean, it was a great honor to come and speak to the former South Vietnamese population. I was there for a year, and yes, I appreciated the efforts of both the South Vietnamese Army and also just the general population. They were supportive of us and tried to help us.
Yes, and indeed, we're truly grateful once again. So now let's talk about the organization where you partner with. You partner with City of Gloucester in order to promote what you're going to talk about. But let's talk about what is United Veteran Council of Gloucester and what do they do?
The United Veterans Council of Gloucester is the umbrella group for the four veterans organizations in Gloucester. Yes. The American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, the AMVETS, and the VFW. And so we're the umbrella organization that gets involved in events like Memorial Day and Veterans Day and near and dear to my heart, the support and the sponsorship of the wall that heals, which is the moving wall.
I see. So what are some of the activity where you mentioned, I remember there's parade as well, right?
Well, what happens is that the wall is transported up. It's coming from Dover, Delaware, which is where it'll be on July 6th. Mm-hmm. And so when it reaches the state border, we're going to have an escort that's going to bring it around 128 into Gloucester. So we'll have local veterans, we'll have riders from veterans organizations, we'll have police, and we'll have fire, which will accompany this. It's a tractor trailer, which will accompany it into Fuller School off of 128 on Wednesday, the 7th of July. We're not quite sure what time yet.
I see. So when you mean is the traveling wall, can you talk about how big is the wall? And
the traveling wall is 1/2 size of the Vietnam Memorial down at D.C.
I see.
And it's sponsored by the same organization, which is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. It's a 250-foot replica of the wall, and it starts from 2.5 feet on the side to 8.5 feet in the center. And it's an exact duplicate. It's black marble. It comes in sections which are put together at the site.
I see.
And so those who haven't had the honor to go down to see the actual wall in the D.C. will be able to come up and see the wall up in Gloucester.
I see. That's fantastic because I went to D.C. and saw the wall, and so this is really something we look forward to, and being able to see it again and hear. So is this the first time that the wall came to Massachusetts?
No, the wall came to Gloucester back in 1997 was the time. It's been in a couple other towns within Massachusetts over the last couple of years. But we think we're really pushing it more. We're inviting everybody statewide to come. It's a moving experience. If you've been down to the one in D.C., you understand the honor it is and how awe-inspiring it is to stand there in that area. Right. And in my case, see a number of my classmates from flight school who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Yes. So we want to do it here in Gloucester for the veterans that haven't had the opportunity. I mean, it's 50 years since the start of Vietnam War.
Yeah.
A lot of us are getting kind of gray in the tooth, and we may not have much more of an opportunity to see this.
Right. Yeah, I remember it was very emotional for me, standing before the wall and looking at one name after another and thinking, wow, how can we repay the respect, for these soldiers that sacrificed their lives. So, yeah, it was very touching for us. Regardless of whether we're Vietnamese or non-Vietnamese, this is someone who risked their life to protect the citizens here. So yes, you want
there's a secondary additive to the wall. Obviously, number one being for the Vietnam veterans, for the Vietnamese community to come out and see it. But last time, Mark just spoke about last time it was in Gloucester. I was a young child last time it came out in Gloucester. So there's an additive that sticks with you through your lifetime to come see it, to learn about it, to learn from the Vietnam veterans that are there, their experience.
Yeah.
So it is something that stuck with me as a child and into my adulthood. One of the leading aspects of why I joined the military,
I see.
Seeing the wall. So there is that educational piece to the community, to the general public, educate them and let them know what the wall stands for, what it means, and the sacrifices that were made.
Right.
One of the issues is that the current generation, I'm talking the current generation in schools, have very little comprehension of, one, where Vietnam was, and two, what took place 50 years ago.
Right.
And so in the Vietnam veterans generation, in my opinion, was kind of a lost generation. So that we want to educate this population, not so much on the war itself, but approximately 1,500 men went from Gloucester to fight in Vietnam.
Wow.
Tragically, 11 never came back. So just to understand the sacrifices that were made on behalf of their country and in support of your country.
Right. Thank you. So 1,500, that's a big deal. That's a lot of people from one town. And Gloucester is not really huge, right?
It's not really huge, but it's a fishing community. A lot of second and third generations, and so they felt it their duty and their honor to go. I mean, one of the things that's unique about the Gloucester 11 that died is they're all volunteers.
Yeah.
None of them were drafted. All 11 of them chose to go, and sadly, they paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
So we want to remember them. And we've invited the families to make sure they understand how much we appreciate what they have done for the city.
Right. So you were in Vietnam?
Yes.
How long ago?
I was in Vietnam from 69 to 70. I flew helicopters in the Central Highlands, Pleiku and An Khê and Quy Nhon for a year. I was also a translator because they had sent me to language school before. Unfortunately, they sent me for the Hanoi dialect, so it wreaked havoc when I was trying to use it in South Vietnamese, because much to my chagrin, there's a little difference in the dialect.
Can you say something?
Chao Ung, Chao Ba, I can say that's about as far as I can go.
That's nice.
Itoi, a few things like that. I mean,
yeah.
I went to language school to learn language. I discovered I was learning North Vietnamese, which is why I decided to fly helicopters besides.
I see.
I hate to walk.
You're so humble. So what have you been doing since you came back? And,
I went back and graduated from college.
Yeah.
And then I went to law school.
Yes.
And I decided to stay in Massachusetts, and we fell in love with Gloucester back in 1986, so we moved to Gloucester because we wanted to raise a family here. So I've been an attorney there.
Yeah.
I'm the commander of the American Legion post there, and I'm the senior vice commander of the Disabled American Veterans post there.
Yeah.
And so...
You're busy.
Well, my goal was I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted the Vietnam veterans to understand that we are grateful for what they did, because when I came back, unlike now in Adam's generation, where thank God the citizens get it, that they can separate the war from the warrior, in my generation it couldn't happen. And so we came back, we didn't have parades, in fact oftentimes people ignored us. The VA had a tough time. They didn't know how to spell PTSD, much less how to treat it.
Right.
So in a sense, we were the sacrificial lamb for people waking up. And so, Adam's an Iraqi veteran, so he's been in the same boat that I've been in. And so at least we've smartened up and at least tried to reach out, both with the system and services, but just John Q. Public has understand the sacrifices that he has made.
Yes.
And the same kind of issues that they're going through. I mean, PTSD is rampant through the Iraq-Afghanistan veterans, just like it was rampant through the Vietnam veterans. Fortunately, although they still have a long way to go, the VA and the general population finally get it that we need to do something. It may be a little bit late, but at least they're trying. My generation, they never got it. And that was, we lost a generation.
Right, right. And it's hard to talk to someone who you have to begin from the beginning to explain, you know, what happened and what went wrong or what went right. For Vietnamese American, it has been 40 years, you know, for us. And so looking back, you know, we're always grateful for the help that the Americans, you know, have assisted us. Because, you know, we could have died in the sea, but it was the American government that picked us. And I mean, I was young, so I didn't know a whole lot about the history between the American, the Vietnam, and well, I know this was the internal war between North and South, and for so long. And so until the American came in to help, you know, rescue the situation, in hoping that we could get rid of communists from, you know, trying to take over. So basically, I only know the basic, and of course, I was, you know, young when I was rescued. So, regardless of what we do now, we always look back and say, "Wow, if it wasn't for the American, we wouldn't be here today." So I can say that all of us very, very grateful, you know, for the help and to be able to sit here with you today and to meet you. It really meant a lot, you know, for me and for many people, for you to come on the show.
Well, I discovered the same thing when I was in Vietnam, that I could differentiate between the military machine and the average South Vietnamese. Who my impression was they were caring, they were thoughtful. I mean, they had a tough time living through the rice paddies and the water buffaloes and things like that. You know, and you see the drive along, you see people living in tin huts, or the proverbial cardboard boxes from the cigarettes they would take and they'd turn into huts. It was a scrambling, but they did it. And I was always impressed with what they would do and how they would try to take care of the children, especially in impossible situations. And, you know, I mean, it's significant this year because it's the 50th anniversary of the start of the Vietnam War, and it's also, sadly, the 40th anniversary of the fall of Saigon.
Yes, that's right.
So it has a double impact for us to bring the wall to Gloucester this year. It's a double impact, which is why I wanted to reach out to the South Vietnamese community that's here and say, this is your wall, too. This is your war. I'm sure that there are people that you know whose names may be on that wall. Come say goodbye to them.
Right.
Because you probably haven't had a chance before to do it.
Yes, yes. And so we'll be sure to advertise this event, you know, widely. And for some Vietnamese American, they might not have opportunity to, you know, have seen the wall in D.C. Or even to see the wall at all. So this would be a fantastic opportunity for them. So how long have you been volunteering for this organization, in particular, trying to promote the wall?
Well, Adam and I got together with this a couple of years ago when he was still a young squirt. But we wanted to do it. It's an opportunity. My concern was if we wait another 20 years, all the Vietnam veterans would be gone, and he would be the gray in the tooth veterans. And so, and it took a while to get it, and we lucked out, and we got it, and we got in the perfect timing. It's coming up in the summertime, which is an ideal location. It kind of segues. We have Memorial Day. That'll be there, and then we come into this. And we've got a military event in between where we're awarding someone from the current wars a Bronze Star, belatedly for his valor. So it kind of dovetails into everything. We're thanking both the current generation for all their valor and all their heartache, and we're reminding the older generation that we really do care about you. You may have been shunned for many years, but, you know, come out of the darkness.
So how expensive is this home project, moving, you know, the wall from one location to another, and who paid for it?
Donations. We've had sponsors. It costs to bring it up. It costs to put it on. We're putting together a program ad book for ads that go to, but the response of the community has been overwhelming. I mean, it's something they want to do. One of the things I liked about Gloucester was, unlike other towns I've been, Gloucester's embraced the veterans. of all generations, from World War I all the way up. They've embraced them, they've thanked them. There's always been a soft spot in their heart for veterans, type of situation. I mean, one of the advantages that for a long number of years, Gloucester was very insular, so it was the first generation, second generation, third generation, they were all together. And so they supported the families,
I see.
type of situation. But we're getting the money. It's going to happen. Believe me, we got too far, it's going to happen.
Yeah. So this viewing is free to the public?
It's free.
So maybe you can ask for some generosity from people to donate a little bit. I mean, I don't see why not.
We're happy that they come. It's going to be open 24/7. It'll be open from 10 o'clock on the 9th through 4 o'clock on the 12th. The reason we do that is my experience has been that you're going to see the Vietnam veterans between midnight and 5 o'clock in the morning. And so it's open. And we've got reflection tents, we've got benches they can just sit. Because for a lot of veterans, they never got to say goodbye to their comrades because, you know, unlike his generation, his whole unit came in, his whole unit came out. In my generation, one person came in to replace somebody else, and you're always by yourself to a great extent. So the bonds that you had were very temporary, and if you lost someone, you stayed in the conflict, and he was shipped home, and he could have been anywhere. I mean, the 4 that was lost from my class of flight school were all over the country. So when they died, I never saw them, and I never was able to say goodbye.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's one of the things what this is important for, is for a lot of families, they're going to finally be able to say goodbye, or a lot of Vietnam veterans, they're going to be able to say goodbye to their fellow comrades.
So, do you have any regrets for, serving at the time, or it must be very difficult, but do you have any regrets though for being there?
I don't have any regrets for being there. I mean, there's dark sides and there's plus sides type of situation. But that's what we did. I mean, that was my generation. That was his generation. I mean, he did the same thing. There was no draft. I mean, his generation of Iraq, Afghanistan veterans, they did the same thing. They put up their hand, they swore to defend the country, and they went off to war. Would they agree with the policy all the time? Don't know. Did I agree with the policy all the time? Probably not. But my age, I was young. I was 19. I was 20. We do silly things with helicopters that we can't do anymore. Type of situation. But I felt it was my duty to go at that time. Despite, I mean, during my generation, there were a lot that were against it. So there were names and comments and whatever, but a lot of us felt we had a duty. This was our country. Yeah.
So what do you think are the current sentiment now from the Vietnam veteran? Is it time to heal or overcome, what had happened, and just forgiving, accepting? What's the?
Well, that's what we're trying to do. That's what Adam is trying to do. Is he's trying to reach out because he's the veteran service officer for Gloucester, so he's the go-to guy for veterans for help and for whatever.
I see.
And so he's trying to do the same that I've been trying to do. Is we've got a series of Vietnam veterans in Gloucester that I call hiding in plain sight.
I see.
So he's trying to come up with programs that we can reach out to them. And there's programs that they're still eligible for. I mean, we're getting gray in the tooth. I mean, we're in the 60s and we're in the 70s, and there's still programs out there. And he's making a concerted effort, in addition to his generation of veterans, to get the Vietnam veterans in. Here's the programs so we can help you.
Yeah, that's great.
When we look at some of the things where the Vietnam generation is now, they're hitting a crossroads. A lot of them are retiring. Their children are growing up, moving out of the house.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of them are losing their spouses at this point. They're in a crossroads. There are things that they need, that they are eligible for, that they're not, ready to come out and, ask. VA services. VA services has changed from what you've told me, what they were like when you were home, to what they are now. They've improved. The support network from other Vietnam veterans, you're not alone. There's other Vietnam veterans that are going through the same thing. There's other veterans that are going through the same thing. These post organizations, the DAV, the American Legion, the VFW, and the MVets are all here to support you. And, again, the wall, one of the secondary effects of this is getting those Vietnam veterans out from hiding in plain sight and getting them involved with the vets.
One of the most scary statistics, which is really what's generated us pushing forward, is that the suicide rate for Vietnam veterans is almost as high as the suicide rate for the Iraq-Afghanistan veterans.
Wow.
Because we've now retired, a lot of us.
Yes.
Either married, divorced, separated, spouses working, children have grown up, they've flown the coop. We have time to sit at home and stew. And we haven't realized that there's services out there that Adam can provide, and he can reach into to like the VA to say, okay, it's now coming home. You've kept yourself busy for 40 years, so you've pushed what happened behind you. Well, now you're there. And you know, part of the issue is that they're now watching the current generation of veterans receive help, get the accolades, the applause they didn't get. And so, you know, it's not in a derogatory manner, but they're jealous. And so if we can get programs that can help them when they're at that stage, and he's got them, and he's he's got the roots out to get the people. But yeah, one of the things is identify them, come out to the wall, have your catharsis, and oh, by the way, see him, see the VA. Here's what we can help you to get over. Now that you've met, you can get closure. Right. I agree with him. That's a critical part of this wall.
Yes, and I hope that you get a lot of people to help you out in your effort, because this is very important.
It is very important.
So far, how many people have signed up, or?
For the wall?
Yeah.
We haven't started it on the real push. That's coming at the end of this month. You know, pushing for the volunteer list to get the support we need for the wall. But you know, names are trickling in. And we know as soon as we stop making this effort that, you know, this is coming, this is the date, you know, we'll get the numbers. Because as Mark said before, you know, especially around the Cape Ann community, the support for the military, the support for its veterans is really high.
Yeah. We only have about a minute left. Could you repeat again the date and time and the location, exactly where in Gloucester?
It's going to be held from the 9th through the 12th of July. Starting at 10 o'clock on the 9th, which is a Thursday, through Sunday at 4 o'clock. It's on Fuller School, which is right off, it's the Blackburn Circle off Route 128. You can see it from 128. It's the second rotary to Gloucester, which is the reason we picked it, because you can't miss it.
Okay, that's great. So any last word from you?
Just really looking, you know, to extend this invitation to the whole South Vietnamese community, to anyone watching this show. You know, this isn't just a Gloucester project. This is across the board. This is for everyone, whether you know personally affected or you know is ready to learn about it, to be part of this collaboration, to come out and see it and be part of it.
The specific invitation I want to make is to all of the South Vietnamese that were in the military. Please come visit your comrades in arms. Yes. We want to see you. We fought side by side with you. We want to thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we're running out of time, but I want to be sure to give you some contact of other, you know, Vietnamese community leaders so that you can reach out to them as well. But we appreciate once again that you both took the time to come here. We hope that you will come back and talk more about this topic.
Anytime you want to invite us.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. So well, we hope that you enjoy the conversation with our distinguished guest tonight, and I hope that you're going to take the time to come to view the wall, because it is very important, you know, for us to know that it's these Vietnam veterans that have sacrificed their life to protect all of us so that we can be here today. So once again, thank you for watching the show tonight, and we look forward to having you on next Wednesday's live show. Thank you, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.